Okay, I'm going to show you how to hook up a FoosFit. When you get your FoosFit in the mail, it's going to come with a box like this. Everything should already be on there, your spindle and all your strings attached. Just know that your string, the way it wraps around here is important. It's clockwise on the outer spindle. On the inner one, it's counterclockwise. It's going to come with a peg. We call this a peg. And this is a riser. The riser will have a riser insert. This riser insert, just to know that it's flat on this side and it has a little indentation on this side. And I'll show you why in a second. But this just slides in here, locks in there. If you do have a problem where it's coming out, because we've noticed in different areas of the country it's drier or more moist, sometimes just the weather conditions, it may want to pop out when you're using it. What you can do, like see this one's pretty tight, but what you can do is if you just drop just a dot of super glue on the side here, not a whole lot because you may want to get it out one day, just a little one dot on one side, and then you just pop that in there, it'll lock it in pretty good. And then you're going to have your control box. If you have an older phase 2 FoosFit, you may not have a control box. All the ones sold now are phase 3 and they will. So I already put the riser on the outside rod here. I mean on the goalie rod on the outside. I'm going to put it on the inside now just to speed up. I'm not going to do both of them. There's a little rubber insert in here. I just put it on there and I start to tighten this down. Now what you can do is you can give it a couple little cranks like that and then just lock it. Now how tight should you put it? Well, if you get too tight and then crank it down, because you have a lot of leverage here. If you get it too tight, you're going to end up cracking the bottom of this riser. The other thing is that this outer riser needs to be right against the wood here. So make sure you get it nice and snug and then lock it down. That's because when the FoosFit is sitting here, this rod will go all the way in. You don't want the rod and the FoosFit to hit. Okay. You're going to get a little rubber pad. That just helps lock it in there better. All I do is I set the FoosFit on here and push it down. I put the center of the spindle with the center of the rod, and then I just give this a couple of cranks. It doesn't have to be super tight. It's just enough to kind of lock it in there, and that's what the rubber pad does. It helps it lock in there. The other thing is when this goes in here, I'm just going to show you. I'll probably take it back out in a second, but when it goes in there, when you push it down, sometimes as they wear a little bit it'll be easier, but when you push it down you're going to notice it doesn't want to go all the way down because this thing, it turns, you see that, and then it finally slips all the way down, and then you just turn it and it's locked in there now, right? So I'm going to take it out so we can do the next part, which is I usually put, it doesn't really matter, but I like to put the back one here because it's the hardest one to get to. You're going to pull the string. Now, just note, the string is coming from the bottom of the spindle, okay? If you're pulling this one, like this, on the top, from the top of the spindle, then you got it wrong. They both got to come from the bottom, okay? So, what we're going to do, I'm going to pull this string about like that, just a little bit past this rod here. This little peg has an insert there, right? This is called a peg insert. Huh, pretty good, huh? So, just snap that on there like that, and then start gently spinning the string. Now you want to go around 4 or 5 times because that's going to make sure that peg insert's locked on there. And you can always unroll it a little bit. You're going to stick that in there and make sure it goes all the way down and then lock it, okay? And then what I do is as you can see the string's tight here, I just start unrolling it and boom, I get it a little bit past the peg insert over here. I'm going to take this out of the way. Now I've already put this one on here. Obviously it can't go here, right, because it's going to hit the wall, so it has to go on the outside. Now you can put it anywhere you want. The string's pretty long, but generally on the goalie rod I'll put it about right there. Same process. I'm going to snap this on there like that, and then I'm going to roll it. Now if I can't get enough rolls, like if I think, man, I want to roll it another 5 times, the more you roll the better. Now I'm going to snap it in here. Push it kind of hard and lock it. Now, this string is pretty loose. I'll tell you, no matter how well you adjust it the first time, when you start using your FoosFit for the first time, when it starts going back and forth, it's going to stretch the string tighter inside of the spindle, and it's going to get loose. Once you adjust it maybe once or twice of use, it won't move anymore, and it'll stay pretty normal. But the first time you use it, it always does that. Now, like, there's two ways you can adjust the string. One way is simply it's like a ratchet, just crank it. See that? It's tighter now. Now I can tell you right now though, if I move this a bunch, it will get a little looser, and then I'll crank it again. Now, if you find that you're like, man, I feel like if I crank it, it's going to be too tight, there are other ways you can do it. You can loosen this right here, and you can hold the rod and just kind of shimmy this a little bit tighter, and then relock it. That's one way to do it. The other way is to crank it, right? So that is the basics of hooking up the FoosFit. The string, it should not be like crazy tight. When you're in like manual mode or practice mode, it's not as critical because the rod's just kind of bouncing around, and the precision doesn't have to be perfect. When you go to playback mode, which is where you're going to like record defenses and play actual real live tournament defenses, the precision is a little bit more because it's going to stop at a certain point and it's going to shoot over. If you have the string a little loose, like when it gets close to the wall, it might bang the wall harder than it should. So, but anyway, that's how you hook up that. This, you're going to put one of your Ethernet cables into the box here. It's just an Ethernet port. And then you have two plug ports. Doesn't matter which one you put it in. The idea is this other end is going to go on here. Same thing here. You have Ethernet port. So you have two boxes here, right? Well, what we did was we made a little... You can use two separate plugs if you want. But when somebody buys one set of FoosFits, we just send one plug. And the idea is just jump. With the little jumper we give you, you just jump one to the other. There you go. And then you'll have one plug here, and you can choose either box. You can plug it here or you can plug it there. But once you plug it in, I'm going to show you, the FoosFits are going to do a calibration, right? Boom. They're going to move to this wall, back to this wall, and then they're going to rest on the other wall. And that just calibrates them. Now the FoosFits know where they are in relation to the table. So, and what you'll notice is, see, look, the string is already loose. You see that? Both of them. Now what I would do is I'd crank it down a little bit tighter, and that one's pretty loose. You can crank either thing. You can crank this side or that side. Now I'll show you again. If I was to unplug this and plug it back in, if you watch, they're going to move this way, and then back that way. Boom. There you go. And now the string feels a little bit better. So that's, now and it may get, sometimes if I use it, they'll get a little loose, or if you get oil on your rod, these things may slide a little bit. That's the basics of setting up your FoosFit. Just don't get too crazy with the string tighten. I mean, keep it snug. You don't want the men, when they're going back and forth, flailing all around. That means you got it too loose. These, just remember, you have a lot of leverage here, so don't get too crazy with it. And just make sure that these risers are right against the wood there, and you should be good to go. So, obviously, if you have any questions, you can always shoot us an email. We try to respond as quick as we can and get people running. If you have any problems with your FoosFits, we've had a few. Unfortunately, we build these boxes in-house. We build the control boards. Occasionally parts come defective. That's just part of the nature. We test them before they leave. But we've had motor drivers and different things go out. So if you have any problems with them and they're not doing what you expect them to do, give us a call and we'll definitely get you fixed up. Well, thank you.